Welcome back to another episode of Questions with Crocker with me, Dr. Crocker, an emergency vet, and my husband, Shane.
Right.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Just golfed 18 holes?
Yes.
Yes. He is my co-host. This is a podcast that is based on our lives. We answer your questions about running a vet practice, behind the scenes vet med, being parents and managing it all, and talk about really whatever the heck we want to talk about. If you want to listen to us, you can listen to us on Apple or Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. We would love you to leave us a review or feedback along the way via the text message app in the podcast. And I think that's it. Did I get it?
I think so.
Yes.
Maybe we have to pick your daughter up in like 35 minutes.
Yes. Our daughter is at summer camp because it is summertime. And I feel like it's summertime, which should sound relaxing, but instead it is chaos. And we are
Yes.
running around everywhere because we have camps and we're still working and it's a little crazy.
Yes.
But we're having fun.
I think so.
Summertime in... Oh, our cat wants to get in during the podcast. He does not want to be left out. I feel like every time we start this, the cat or the kids all of a sudden perk up and want to be a part of it. As an emergency vet, when we hear summertime, I will be honest, I have a little bit of dread. Our leadership team has kept saying like, well, it's been the slower season, so now we're ready to ramp up. And I have been slammed on overnights in the ER. So I have been telling them, please stop saying that we're going to ramp up because I already feel overwhelmed some nights. But they are correct. I worked over Memorial Weekend. I work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. / 8 a.m. / don't get home till noon sometimes shifts. And so I worked 2 shifts leading up to Memorial Day. Didn't actually work Memorial Day, but I stayed late on Memorial Day because we had so many in the hospital. And then there were so many outpatients pouring in. I wanted to give the day doctors a little bit of relief and time to catch their breath before they jumped in. But I don't know why, but Memorial Day statistically is like one of the busiest days in the pet ER. Why do you think that is?
No idea.
No clue. What sort of emergencies might be coming in?
Heat.
Heat is a big one. Yes. I was going to actually
Eating chocolate.
talk about heat. We did have a lot of toxicity. I think people are like traveling, they're having a good time. People are in town that they're not used to being around their pets. So we had a lot of pets with diarrhea from eating things they weren't supposed to. We are starting to see more and more heat stroke, which we haven't even hit 100 degrees in Texas. So it's kind of terrifying. And a lot of these animals, people are saying like they were only in the yard for a little bit or we only went on a short walk. But maybe it's the humidity. Maybe it's the fact that a lot of the dogs coming in are pugs or brachycephalics, like dogs that have a hard time oxygenating and cooling down already. But seeing heat stroke already, which is a little scary. And heat stroke is like a weird thing, right? Because what'll happen is you'll take your pet out and then all of a sudden you'll realize like they got too hot. So what would you do as a pet owner?
Give them water.
Give them water. Some people bring them inside and like hose them off. They cool them down, right? A lot of pets cool down and then they're kind of chilling. But what happens, get that? Chilling. I was trying to be funny. But what happens is there's all these things that occur internally when they get overheated. It causes massive inflammation. So even if your pet gets overheated and you cool them down at home, there's all these other side effects that can happen in the next couple hours. So we've had pets that have come in hours after they actually got overheated and they have profuse watery diarrhea. They have petechiation. Do you know what that is?
Not a clue.
So that's little bleeding under the skin. So you'll see little pinpoint bruises all over the body. It is a very, very severe side effect, and they can absolutely die from it because basically inflammation and the body is just reacting and your vessels are leaking and your blood pressure gets really low. And so it's very, very serious. They need lots of fluids. They need plasma. They need a lot of support. So is kind of tough because people will think, hey, we cooled them down, they're good. And then all of a sudden the pet starts having like really significant symptoms. So if your pet gets overheated and you cool them down, make sure to watch them the next couple hours. Watch for GI signs like vomiting, diarrhea. Watch for any bruising. Watch for them being really weak, lethargic, the gums looking muddy or white. And definitely go to the pet ER if you see that. You feel good about it?
I'm going to need you to start watching me
get overheated.
getting overheated from walking 9.
On the golf course?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get overheated today? Because you smell like you
so.
sweat a fair amount while you were out there.
Definitely sweated,
So,
for sure.
It's not your fault, honestly, because you pretty much walked in the door and I was like, It's podcast time. We got to get this done. Because honestly, in my brain, because it was Memorial Day on Monday, my brain was telling me it's Tuesday still. And then Harrison, who does our podcast, texted me and was like, "Am I getting a podcast this week?" And I was like, "Oh, wait, it's
Maybe.
Wednesday." You can tell we're really prepared here. I was actually thinking about that the other day because someone was talking about being a type A versus like a type B parent or professional. But what would you consider me? Would you consider me type A or type B?
I don't know what the difference is. I would say type A because I don't know what type B really means.
So type A is like very organized, very structured, like lots of rules.
You're B. You're D. Type
Not-
D.
Not D. Type B is like kind of go with the flow, probably is not as organized as you should be. I think I'm definitely type B, except for I think I'm type A in the ER or for certain things.
I would say your personality, type A personality, but I don't know. I mean, I doesn't necessarily mean you have to be organized.
Is there like a type C where you kind of are
I was a
really
C
laid back
student,
about
probably.
certain... I'm like extremely laid back about certain things, probably more than I should be. We had a lot of friends over and one of my friends came out and was like, "Hey, so the kids are inside and they have like a big mattress and they're sliding down the stairs on it." And I was like, that sounds about right for our household.
So you did video it?
I'm like, that sounds awesome. No. So I think with our kids, I'm a little more free range, laid back. But in the ER, I am definitely pretty like efficient and on it and expect things to be done a certain way. So I think that you would call me type A if you work with me in a clinical setting. But at home, I'm a little more laid back. Not 100%, but a little bit more. So the heat stroke one actually is a good question that we got. And so at Caitlin.link48 said, "Hello, I'm a first-year vet student, yay, with a 60-pound pitty. He's very dense with black fur, and we're currently in Arizona," which again is going to be a place where you see a ton of heat stroke.
And lots of golf.
Yeah, sounds great. If you can, I would love to see a video on heat stress versus heat stroke, what you can do to prevent them, what are the signs, and when it's critical to take them to the ER. I really appreciate your page and love learning from it. Thank you for your hard work. That was really nice, Caitlin. Thank you. And congrats on getting into vet school. So I think it is hard because there's probably a really fine line between like heat stress and heat stroke. So there's a couple things. If your pet is on a walk or is in the yard for extended periods of time, or obviously is in a hot locked car longer than they should be, and they collapse, they're fairly unresponsive for a little bit of time, they are panting excessively, and it's not like they go inside and within 10, 15 minutes they stop. They are continuing to do it for an extended period of time. Again, if they vomit, if they have any loose stool, then I would absolutely say that they've experienced heat stroke and they should go to the ER right away. Heat stress would be, to me, more like they really slow down when they're outside. All of a sudden, they're standing there and they're panting excessively, because that's how dogs cool themselves, is by opening their mouths and panting. They don't sweat like we do. But you take them inside, you give them some water, and they cool down pretty quickly, and they're acting normal otherwise and not having any other major issues. And so the line between that is probably really close.
Do all dogs show heat stress before they go into heat stroke?
Yes, it's probably like the precursor. But in Texas, I mean, if we're outside for just a couple of minutes, our Labrador is going to be panting a lot, and he's probably going to be laying down more.
He has
looking
heat stress
for
every
shade.
30 minutes.
So if you are in a hotter state, I honestly, and especially if you had a brachycephalic breed, or like she said, she has a pitty that's like dark color, so they're going to get hot faster, I would really limit. So I would only do walks really early in the morning when it's not hot, or really late at night when the sun's not out. And they say that if you put your hand down and your hand can't sit on the concrete for an extended period of time, then you shouldn't walk them on the concrete, because we definitely see injuries to paw pads when it gets too hot. The other big thing about if you think your pet is overheated, there are some people that will like make a bathtub with ice in it and water and try to like cool them really rapidly. It's actually really dangerous to bring their temperature down too quickly. And if you shock their system like that, it can increase the inflammation and the side effects that they can experience. So what they recommend is to offer cold water, put a fan actually in front of their face to help them cooling down while they're panting, put them in a cool place, obviously. Don't put blankets under them, put them on the floor where it's going to be cooler. But don't completely like submerge or immerse them in cold water because that can cause some major issues. So back to summertime emergencies. Obviously, heat stroke has been going. We had some snake bites over the weekend. Like I said, we had a lot of ingestion of things that people shouldn't. There was 2 dogs that came in because there was a bag of espresso chocolate beans on the counter and they were
Sounds
gone.
like our dog.
And espresso beans are like really high in, caffeine products. And so it can cause pretty significant issues, but they didn't know which dog ate it. So we had to make both dogs throw up. One of the dog, tons of chocolate, tons of espresso beans came out. The other one was just their food, and we kind of felt bad.
Yeah, it sucks.
Because she's like sitting there really nauseous, and we're like, sorry. But we needed to decontaminate whichever one it was. And the owner's like, I have no idea. And they were guessing that it was him more than her, but it was pretty funny. So they were like, we're going to take her home and like give her extra treats and make her feel better. And he had to stay in the hospital actually because he had a dose that was high enough that it could turn out that he had seizures, and we only got out some of the beans and not all of them. So we had to give him more things and IV fluids and monitor him closely. But it was funny because the owner was saying she had been dating this guy and he's super nice but he doesn't get yet that the dogs will like eat stuff that they shouldn't. So she's like, I'm having to train my boyfriend to keep stuff off the counter because he doesn't realize, how into it. And she's like, he's a great guy, but it's kind of hard. And I'm like, yes, because he was very worried. He felt horrible. Like, I was like, no, he's a keeper. Like the fact that he cares as much and is here. But it was just funny because they were very stressed out. And then it was a large amount of chocolate.
Cocoa beans.
What do you mean? What are cocoa beans?
I don't know.
Like cocoa nibs, cocoa beans. There's precursors for like chocolate and espresso beans. Like cocoa is like the precursor, so it's like the most dense condensed amount.
What do you do with it though?
Oh, well, they were roasting them for like different coffee products apparently. And then you can actually cook with it and add it to different things, I guess. I don't know. But
I don't think we have that here at the house.
No, I had a pug one time that came in because it ate just a handful of espresso beans, and they came in and it was full on like tachycardic. Its heart rate was racing. It was shaking. I mean, it was having severe symptoms.
So would you buy and then you make your own coffee? Like
yes.
You grind it up and then make your own?
The people that have time for that and energy for that.
Yeah, that's not us.
We are not the ones.
We're a little thing in a cup.
I do think because you gave up Diet Mountain Dews, I feel like you're getting a little like hooked on coffee.
Oh yeah, I'm addicted.
Which black coffee is not as bad. You guys, you've been adding a little extra something to it.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been adding?
Jack.
That's our at night coffee. You had like all the goodies, like the creamers and the flavorings and all that. And I'm like drinking black coffee over here. So, oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay, so in the ER, we also had another interesting case. And I'm going to share this case because it always makes me feel smart when I get something right that other people, didn't catch on to. So we had a cat come in, and the cat was a beautiful cat, and it was like a 2-year-old cat. And it had already been seen the past 2 days at 2 other facilities for vomiting. So seen for vomiting, acting pretty normal, but throwing up a fair amount. And x-rays were taken. And each time the radiologist said they didn't see an obstruction. So they didn't see anything in there. But it's a young cat, they get into things. So they gave Cerenia, which is an anti-nausea medication. It lasts 24 hours. Really, when you give it, they should not throw up if they're just nauseous. The only reason they really throw up, in my experience, is because there's something like causing a blockage. So the cat threw up. So they went back again to a different urgent care vet. X-rays were taken again. Again, radiologist was like, no obstruction was seen. Cat looked great. Like not dehydrated, fine, was eating small amounts. And so they went home and they were told, like, we're giving Cerenia again. It's been 24 hours. We're going to give it again. If it throws up, you need to go to the ER. So it threw up, came to me in the middle of the night. Cat looked wonderful, like palpated normal, heart rate was normal, nice and hydrated. But I'm like, listen, there's got to be something in there. I will take x-rays again, but really at this point, you've already done it twice. So I'm going to ultrasound and I'm going to see if I can see shadowing anywhere or fluid in the intestines, because the ultrasound will bounce off of like more solid objects, right? Versus going through fluid. So you can kind of see some shadowing. And I'm not great at it. Like I wouldn't, bet the house on my ultrasound skills. But my spidey sense of just like being a vet for a while and the history and everything was like, there's something in this cat. So I did the ultrasound and I was 85% sure that there was something in there. I would not say 100% because, again, I'm not a radiologist, but I've done it enough. And so I looked and I was like, I'm super suspicious. Let's run blood work, though, because there's some electrolyte changes that can happen if there's a foreign body and if they're throwing up. Blood work was normal, right? So I'm like, I still don't know. And to say I need to do surgery on your cat and like cut the cat open and do the surgery, like that's hard if you're not like 100%. Like a radiologist has said, yes, do surgery. And so I finally just said, this sounds weird, but I really just, there's something in there. I just know it. And I cannot tell you 100%. This could be what we call a negative exploratory, where we open them up and we find nothing. And if that's the case, then we'll close them up, or we can take biopsies and try to figure out why they're throwing up. And the owners were like, yes, like let's do surgery. It's been 2.5 days. We're really worried at this point. So there's always this moment of fear when you get into surgery and you've like convinced an owner, I need to do this major surgery, inexpensive surgery, right, on your pet. And right before you start, you're like, I pray to God that I find something in here, because if I don't, I do not want to call these people. And so I opened up the cat and everyone's like holding their breath. And I like started pulling the intestines out and I'm like checking everything. And I'm like, ah! And there it was. There was like a swollen area and it was red and it was angry. It was actually really good that we did it when we did, because it had been sitting there for a while. And it turned out it was a makeup sponge.
Oh, really?
Like one of the ones that girls use for their... And I think it was like just porous enough that some fluid was getting through and some stuff was getting through. But the intestines where it was like swollen, angry, like purpley red. So it definitely was like blocking it up enough. And it'd been in there for, 2 days. And so I took it out and the cat did great and went home in less than 24 hours. Like as soon as it woke up, it was one kind of angry, which is a good sign in a cat, and then ate a couple hours later and then went home like later that night.
Nice.
But it's like this huge sense of relief when you get in there and you actually find it. And then everyone's like peeking their head in while you're doing surgery. They're like, what'd you find? What'd you find? Did you find something? And you're like, yeah, we found something. And everyone's like, yeah, let's go. So it was pretty fun. And that was one of my 2 surgeries that I did over that night, and I did one the night before, which I love.
What the owners say, like, oh, I was missing that.
Oh, the owners were like, a makeup sponge? Well, I guess that could be the case. I mean, they were like shocked. The other one I did was a golden retriever that had thrown up 3 socks, and then the 4th one got stuck, and so I had to go get that one, and it was her 2nd surgery. She's 10. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're still getting socks out at that age. And then I had another one that was an exploratory. It was his 3rd surgery. So many adhesions. It was a tough surgery. I had to remove part of his intestines. It was so angry. But he did great too and went home. So 3 surgeries, foreign bodies, and they all went home. I was very, very happy.
Nice.
It's a good success rate in our field in general. But yes, a lot of emergencies over the summer and over the weekend on Memorial Day. Okay, so this is based off questions. I had one more question that I was going to go over. At Monica Baum wanted to know, what made you decide to own your own practice? And what would you recommend to people that want to own their own practice? Don't
do it. Oh, that's the right answer.
Drink heavily. No, I actually was thinking because it's been a couple of days. There's been some things at our practice that are stressful right now, and it's like extreme highs this past week and also some lows that were unexpected. And I was struggling. Like today was the first day that I was like, why did I want to own a practice? Do I want to own a practice? But then, I don't know, I looked around and we just were having all these great clients and helping people. And the biggest thing, and this is the biggest reason why I want to own a practice, is I pretty much can do exactly what I want to do. And I know that sounds weird, right? But I think working for so many people and seeing them do things a certain way and make certain decisions that I thought made our lives so much harder or pissed people off, either clients or employees. I just really wanted ownership over those decisions and over like my environment and the hospital and the experience that clients would have and the experience that our team would have. And so I think that's ultimately the main reason why I wanted to own. And I remember still working in GP And I was at a hospital I thought I would buy eventually. And it kind of just kept getting like relayed to me like, well, eventually, yeah, and we can talk about it. But it kind of felt like I was being strung along. And I would come home and like talk to you, and I would just gripe about things happening at the hospital and like how I would do things differently. And just, I don't know. I was not happy with certain things, even though it was a great practice. It just was frustrating. And do you remember what you told me?
If you want to make a change, buy your own thing.
Mm-hmm. You're like, if you can't change where you are, buy your own, and then you can make the changes you want. And for some reason, that stuck out to me so dramatically, and it made so much sense. I don't think I've ever been the person that would stay in a situation I wasn't happy in, but I kept telling myself, this is a great practice. We have great clients. They will pay for whatever we want to do. I get to practice high quality medicine. I get to do surgery. My schedule is amazing. I'm getting paid like really well. Like, why would people leave this job? But on the flip side, there was just leadership decisions and other decisions that I didn't understand. And for some reason, those things just frustrated me so much that it made it not worth it. And it was things I couldn't control. And ultimately, if you're in a situation where you're frustrated over things you have absolutely no control over, I think that you need to get out of that situation if you're a personality like me. And I think we're similar personalities because you, I think, worked for companies where you made good money and you did things that were like really valuable, but ultimately you weren't happy either because of meetings that could have been emails and people wanting
Yeah, a lot of inefficiencies and waste of time. But
yeah.
I think if you're going to own a practice, you have to make sure that you have the right personality for it. Not everybody's cut out to make the tough decisions and deal with the ups and downs of owning your own practice. You know, it floods and you got people redoing floors over Memorial Day weekend. I mean, not everybody's cut out to be able to handle that type of stress. So that's probably number one. Look inside and make sure, look deep down and make sure that you're ready to
really ready. Yeah.
handle that and the employee things that happen and everything else. But owning your own practice can be very rewarding because, like you said, you can do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You can create your own workflows. You can create your own culture. You can build it the way you want to build it. And you have the upside to either be successful or crash and burn, So
Yeah. Well, and I think that if I've done anything right, it's the people that I've put around me who are especially like in the leadership circle. So people I really trust that get the vision, but also I can bounce things off of. So like full transparency, recently we found out an employee that we love who's amazing and like loves us too, but is going to move on to like different things in life. And it has been like heartbreaking and devastating to me. And I have really taken it personally. And it's like you want people to be successful and you care about them. But it does feel like you weren't enough or you didn't do a good enough job as a leader if someone chooses to move on to something else. And I was really frustrated last night about it. And I was talking to you about it. And you were being very logical and very helpful. And
probably too logical.
I did have to say, like, I don't need you to fix it right now. I just need to, like, get my feelings out and have feelings. But you made some really great points of it's not personal. And it is the fact that we want people to be successful and get what they need out of life. And
some people would say you're actually not doing things right if people aren't leaving and progressing in their career.
what does that mean?
It means you as an owner, if people aren't leaving and progressing in their career, you're not giving them the right opportunities to be successful and to grow.
Got it. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think in my head, I know that that is a normal evolution of a business, right? Like you're not going to have the same people working at the same place for 20 years. There's going to be an ebb and flow and a turnover. But there are just certain people that I think you just get really comfortable with and you really come to appreciate like who they are and what they have to offer. And it was just really unexpected, which is harder. So I think for the first time just really was like, maybe just a little like heartbroken and then disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to do the things that I felt like needed to be done, but really I have no control over the situation. And that's what you were saying last night. And I would love to say I could have done A, B, or C and it would be turning out differently. But in talking to this person and talking to you, I really don't think that's the case. But I do think that if you are thinking about practice ownership, being able to understand that as the owner, you can't take things personally, and you will. That's just the reality of being a person. But you really have to focus on the big picture and on moving forward and continuing to create like the experience and the culture and I don't know what the dream was ultimately. And it is not going to be easy and it's not going to be smooth sailing. And honestly, just when you feel like you have it, you're figuring it out. And just when you feel like the pieces are falling into place, that is likely when it is going to fall apart. And so my hope is through these moments is...
I wouldn't say fall apart. You hit a speed bump.
Okay, that's
true. Got to
true.
slow down, regroup, and do it again.
That's true. And you're better at that of saying like, this is not something that we can't overcome. I think my future, my vision had certain puzzle pieces and people in place.
Yes.
And so it feels harder to move forward because of that. And it's just tiring hiring. I mean, I feel very lucky. We've had so many people apply for technician positions and we've had a ton of working interviews, but I am being so picky because I really want to bring the right people on board. And it's just kind of exhausting to talk to people and to interview a lot of people, and just still not feel like you found like the right person to join the team. So I think the thought of jumping into that again is just a little exhausting. So did not mean to go off on a tangent, but Monica, I think if you really want ownership over the experience of the hospital and the culture and the future of where you're working, then you should be an owner. If you can go to work, show up, do your job, and go home and not worry about anything else and not stress about anything else, then being an associate is wonderful. I also think financially, if you want to invest in something that hopefully in the long run will pay off, ownership is a great way to do it. They did say also, is there any recommendations that you have if someone does want to own their own practice? And I would say having a mentor who owns a practice would be great. Being very intentional in networking locally if there's a place you want to buy in, and then having the right team with someone who understands finances, who understands business is really important. Because
start laying out your vision today as well. I mean, start like creating your playbook of what it looks like, what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because the faster you start putting your ideas on paper, the better off you're going to hit your reality.
Well, and we talk about it all the time of what is the goal, and the goals are written out, and everything you're doing should be moving you towards the goal and working towards the goal. Yep. And so it's easier than to say, where's my energy being put and what makes the most sense ultimately for me, when you have that very laid out and very clear. So those would be some of the things. We actually did another whole podcast episode on if you want to be an owner, other things you should think about.
I think we talked about that at one point.
Yeah, we did it at length, and also talked a lot about the team that you should build and whether you should do a de novo or a startup. So go back in old episodes if you want to.
Speaking of, our whiteboard, is it up to date?
I think our whiteboard is doing pretty good. We did another whiteboard session, and the next part is adding potentially the mobile component. So we're working on that. Big things are coming out to Vista Animal Hospital. Going to keep showing up in the ER over the summer and hopefully can make it and can survive with the amazing team we have. And hopefully you keep, improving in golf and surviving.
Like I'm going the wrong direction in golf.
You're not going the wrong direction in golf. That's not possible.
No, it's possible.
With how much golf you play.
That's even worse. That's the problem.
Going backwards. All right. Well, we are going to get out of this office and go pick our kids up from camp and enjoy the rest of our summer. Thanks so much for being here. Just remember to leave a review if you enjoyed this episode. Listen to us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on social media at Questions With Crocker. Make sure to drop us some questions for future episodes. And
watch us on YouTube.
Yeah, watch us on YouTube and have a wonderful day. Bye.